Hello, my name is Vanessa Ghigliotty. I am a 17-year stage 4 colon cancer survivor, and I serve on the Global Colon Cancer Association's U.S. Early Age Onset Program Development. I'd like to take a moment to thank you so very much for joining us for our virtual and on-demand Congress. As happy as I am to be here today with you virtually, the truth is I wish I wasn't. But unfortunately, I'm part of the 11% of young adults diagnosed with early age onset colon cancer in the United States. For those diagnosed with rectal cancer, it's 18%. I do kind of want to put in a little side note. I am here in New York City doing something I've never done. Every speech or event I've ever attended has always been in person and face to face, right? But this is being recorded. And New York City is on lockdown. And New York City is very loud. And I have fire trucks and ambulances and like all the noises that you would expect from a New York City apartment. So if that happens, please bear with me. And I thank you in advance for that. So now on from my story. My story is like so many others when it comes to early age onset. Our symptoms, our concerns, and all of our fears are ignored, they're dismissed or misdiagnosed, which leaves the cancer to run rampant in our bodies. And this is why so many young adults are diagnosed at later stages, which not only brings with it harder chances to beat it, but it also brings a whole array of complications. For myself, as a young mom, I decided to go back to college. And at 27 years old, during my senior year, I went to my doctor, complaining of fatigue, a lack of appetite, and constantly feeling bloated. My doctor of many years, who I absolutely loved, told me, Vanessa, you're doing too much. You need a break. You are going to school full time, you're working part time, and then whatever little time you have is spent doing homework with your son and running around doing extracurricular activities with him. How do you expect not to feel those things? It made sense to me. So I did exactly what she said. And that September 2001, 9/11 happened. And that was after my break. And I was supposed to go back to work. But instead, my beloved New York City shut down, kind of like what is happening all over the world with COVID. So now, my increasing symptoms, I brushed away, thinking it was just from stress of not being able to find a job. But that October, I realized that my symptoms are getting worse. And I had a big bulge now coming out of my side that I could not ignore. Back to the doctor I went. When I got to my family clinic, I found out that my doctor was gone, replaced by someone else. So while I was waiting to see that doctor, I had no idea at the time how much power he would have over my life. I sat there and I told him, when he finally came in, everything that I was feeling. I said, look, I'm having constant nausea, severe bloating, extreme fatigue that no amount of sleep can shake, the painful hard bulge on my right side, the fact that I had no appetite, and the rare occasions that I did eat, it would take me about a week or so to have a bowel movement. He touched my side where the bulge was, and as I flinched from the pain, he told me that I'm overweight and that I do not eat enough roughage. So when I looked at him like he was crazy, he proceeded to spell out the word roughage and give me the definition of it. I kept thinking, gee, thanks. I just graduated from college with honors, but go ahead and keep speaking down to me, ignoring what I'm telling you. Fed up, I kind of got really serious with the doctor, and I told him, look, being overweight does not explain this painful bulge on my right side. He touched it again and told me, That's just gas from not eating healthy. He turned to write some stuff in my chart. I told him, but you're overweight too. And he said, yes, but I'm not the one in pain. Shocked. I just sat there for the longest time. He finally turned around and told me, you're still here? If you need that much attention, why don't you get yourself a boyfriend? Walking home hysterical crying, I spent the next several months eating roughage, becoming progressively worse. And instead of seeing another doctor, I blamed myself. This was my fault for being overweight. This was my fault for not eating healthy. Now we fast forward, and it's almost April of 2002. I am no longer able to go out because I feel too weak. I cannot stand for long periods of time, and the bulge in my side grew, making it almost impossible to walk because the pain was so intense. My nights were spent curled up on my side, trying to control the nausea and pain I felt, and also under tons of blankets because I felt like I was freezing to death. I unknowingly had high fever every single day. One night, crying to my mother that I could not drive my son to karate practice, she said, enough is enough, and took me to the emergency room. There, I was admitted straight away because my fever was elevated. When they realized the bulge on my side, they thought, oh my goodness, and my appendix must have ruptured. And they took me for x-rays, and they said, sure enough, that I was such a lucky girl because my body seemed to have formed a sac that protected me from anything that would have made my body septic. So the next day, happily thinking they're going to drain it and everything's going to be all right, they go in, and it wasn't a sac. It was rock solid. After a painful biopsy, I didn't hear about anything for days. One morning, sitting by the hospital window, the resident came in with her fellows. I asked what was going on. I told them I wanted to go home. I missed my son so much. The resident bent over, touched my knee, and she told me, oh, no one told you? You have cancer. And at 28 years old, that was how I found out I had colon cancer. I have to say, the first oncologist that I saw there in that hospital before I even went home told me that it was stage 4 and that it was everywhere. And they didn't know how effective chemo would be at that point, and that I needed to get my affairs in order ASAP. Well, now at 46, I had 3 years of massive amounts of chemo, 10 surgeries, and I can say that I'm colon cancer free. And on April 26th of this month, I will be celebrating my 18th year cancerversary of when I was first diagnosed. I'm sorry, as you can see, I still get really emotional and it still affects me, and I'm 18 years out. But I will say this. This is why so many survivors, caregivers, and thrivers who are still in the fight use our stories. And we tell it far and wide in newspapers, in magazines, in podcasts, TV and radio stations, on Capitol Hill, and at our local politicians' offices and blogging. If there is a platform out there, you better believe that we are using our experiences and our voices to advocate for policy change, for education, prevention, and awareness. Getting the general public to become aware of what colorectal cancer is, how important it is to know your family history, and to know that colon cancer is 70% sporadic, which means if you have a colon, you're at risk, is what we do. And we do not do that to instill fear into people, but instead to empower them with knowledge and education. I will say this. All of the hard work that has been done in America has caused the incidence of colorectal cancer to drop in people 50 and older. And that is because they're getting their recommended screenings. That's phenomenal. However, that's not the case for people under 50. According to the American Cancer Society, this year there will be approximately 18,000 people under the age of 50 who will be diagnosed with this disease. And as dire as that sounds, in 2018, we had a huge victory when the recommended screening age was lowered from the age of 50 to 45 for average risk adults and from the age of 45 to 40 for African Americans. But that's still not enough. 12 years ago, I remember when the late, great Dr. Thomas Weber, one of my personal heroes, who founded the Colon Cancer Foundation, pulled me into his office after I voiced my frustration about doctors continually ignoring those of us under 50 with no family history. And he introduced me to a doctor who was researching the possible causes of early age onset and sparked in me an incredible hope that those of us who go to the doctor with colorectal cancer symptoms will no longer be ignored. But that's not the case. As a certified patient navigator, I hear the same stories like mine over and over again as more and more people are being diagnosed at younger and younger ages. To try and combat the alarming increase in young adult early age onset, many colorectal cancer organizations have developed young onset programs, campaigns, and research across our country. I, as a stage 4 colon cancer survivor, am so very proud and excited to present you with the U.S. Experience, raising awareness, education, and prevention of young adult early age onset colorectal cancer. Each organization represented on our virtual panel has worked so hard to showcase their efforts in combating early age onset.